Welcome to GNV On The Move, a half-hour program showcasing exciting progress in the City of Gainesville. I'm your host, Jennifer Smart, here to share with you some of the most interesting details about our city's initiatives, programs, events, and people. In this episode, we'll have a conversation with Gainesville Fire Rescue Chief Shawn Hillhouse to talk about how you and your family can stay safe and prepared this hurricane season. We'll also spotlight one of our approximately 1,300 city employees in a segment we call Meet Your Community Builders. But first, here is my conversation with Gainesville's at-large Commissioner James Ingle. We touched on issues that are important to him, such as support for local businesses, developing our workforce, and why he got into politics. James Ingle was elected to the Gainesville City Commission in late 2024 and took office in January. As president of the local chapter of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, he is committed to workforce development and providing support for local businesses and the downtown area. Commissioner Ingle, welcome to GNV On The Move.
Thank you. This is my favorite Gainesville-themed talk show, so I'm excited to be here.
We're happy to have you. So let's start a little bit with your background, sort of what came before your time on the City Commission.
So, as you mentioned, I'm the president of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. That's the local electricians union in town. And it is probably one of the most important decisions I've ever made, was getting involved in this. So I was looking for a job, just kind of stumbled into an apprenticeship program. And that really gave me a career. It gave me the kind of freedom that comes with a trade. I was able to travel the country and see all sorts of neat places. And it also really kind of got me involved in labor politics and making sure that workers' rights were respected and kind of standing up for working families. And that led me to running for local office. So I said it's been a very important thing in my life, being involved in a union, and kind of that electrical apprenticeship program is what kicked it all off.
And you've been really vocal about your background, where you came from, why you wanted to be able to help. Did you feel that there was something missing from local government, that the voice of people in the workforce wasn't really being effectively heard?
So not just local government, but the AFL-CIO, that's kind of a union of unions, has a program where union members get to go up to Tallahassee and kind of learn how the state government works, and kind of involve yourself and see the impacts that decisions made at the state level can have on working people across the state. So I was very involved in that for a long time, and you meet all these representatives and senators, and then back home, of course, we were also looking for ordinances and policies that would really help working families here. And in all that interaction, I didn't see a lot of other working class people, right? So I said there was business owners, there was MBAs, there was lawyers, but I didn't see construction workers there. I didn't see waitresses there. I didn't see bus drivers there. And that lack of kind of voice for working class people has had real consequences for workers in the state. So, I think a lot of decisions get made in government that affect workers. And they get made by people that are very far away from the consequences of those decisions. And they don't have the firsthand knowledge of what those really mean on the real world. And I think that's an important voice to have there. So that's kind of what convinced me to run for office.
Right. I think you've identified a real dilemma that people who are working 2 or 3 jobs and raising their children and trying to be involved as parents, they're not going to have time to be in these meetings for hours a day.
And unfortunately, because of my union, because we've, through collective bargaining, have got healthcare and insurance and retirement and a little bit more control in our workplace, that does allow me some more freedom than people that are working 2 or 3 jobs and are trying to put that together, just, flying by the seat of their pants, trying to make everything work. And that's, again, I think one of the few ways that you can really be working for a living and get to the point you've got enough freedom and time to involve yourself in local government.
It's time consuming, right, and it's fatiguing, and
Absolutely.
People are already working so very hard. So you got to the City Commission, and what have you thought so far of your term?
So, a lot of it I'm still trying to get my feet underneath me. I don't know what all the buttons and levers do yet, but I really enjoy the fact that you've got some kind of involvement with every decision that comes through. My background was in kind of activism and I said pushing for labor rights and those type of things, but what usually happens with that is an issue comes up and you get involved with it and you'll kind of stay up on that issue. But unless you particularly know something's happening, or unless you keep up on every little thing, you don't really get the input on the whole breadth of issues that come in front of the city commission. So to me, it's been really nice just to have kind of that voice and that perspective added to every conversation that comes up, and how it affects every policy, instead of just some issue that's popped up that you're really focused on.
So you get this holistic view of everything
Exactly.
happening. And then I've noticed what my impression is of your approach is that you're very pragmatic. You almost have like a flow chart way of looking at things, where you're getting down to the very most basic level of whatever the problem is, and then you're looking at the easiest, most practical solution.
So, and I think some of that even comes from a construction background. Like, we're very results oriented. Like, you've got a goal. What is it going to take to get there? What are the needs of the people of the city of Gainesville? How can we meet those needs? Let's move towards that.
And so affordable housing is one of those things. I know that you've been very interested in that. You've shown up to some of the ribbon cuttings for the Bright Community Trust houses. Sure. What are your thoughts there about what the city should be doing, could be doing to improve the situation?
So in many ways, I'm happy a lot of the initiatives the city's taken, but what we really need, I think, is kind of a variety of housing. Like, you've seen a ton of housing built in Gainesville over the past few years. But a lot of it's been very kind of centered towards students. I mean, I think that's what a lot of people see. So there's a lot of people that don't fit into that demographic in Gainesville. And what I really think we need is that kind of variety of housing. And you see that through the land trust that we were just talking about. You see that through making sure that as new developments come in, some amount of that is set aside for affordable and workforce housing. And I think that idea of holding developers accountable to not just what's the most profitable, but also what's best for the city and best for the community they're coming to. And kind of dispersing that all through town, so you're not just pushing all the workforce housing into one area or all the affordable housing into one area, so that everybody gets kind of the benefits of everything in Gainesville. I think those are very important policies that we can push forward with.
Right. Because affordable housing, it's a catchphrase, but really it's just homes that people can afford to buy.
Sure.
You don't want your working people having to live in other communities.
Or buy, rent, whatever makes sense. When I first moved to Gainesville, I rented a room out in one of the old houses, kind of around downtown, one of the old Victorian houses. It was basically a boarding house at the time. That was perfect for me. I didn't need an apartment. I certainly wasn't ready to buy a house. That was the type of housing I needed then. Further on in my career, I was ready to get my own apartment. Like, you have to have something that working class people can afford to move into and rent. If it makes sense for you to look at buying a house or a condo, that's why I think we really need a big variety of housing, because there's so many people in so many different situations that it's not always going to be home ownership, and it's not always going to be renting an apartment, or it's not always going to be living by yourself. And we need to have all these different options for the different types of people we have living.
So the diversification makes sense. And
absolutely.
In workforce training also, because that's something you've also spoken about.
Near and dear to my heart. So apprenticeship programs again, changed my life entirely. When I grew up in a broken down trailer at the end of a dirt road. Knew I probably wasn't going to college. I was going to be out there kind of working for a living. I just kind of felt like the direction I was going in and what was right for me. Well, getting into this apprenticeship program, you're working a job every day. You're out in the field, putting your hands on the work, doing the physical part of the job and learning a trade. But it's partnered with schooling. So 2 nights a week after school, or 2 nights a week after work, we'd go to school and learn all the theory behind what it was you were actually doing out in the field. So you get a very good education across this trade. You come out as a very qualified tradesperson. It's a 4-year program. There's raises built into it the entire time. And that type of opportunity, I think, is very important for people. College doesn't make sense for everyone. And being able to turn, a job into a real career through this type of thing, where you've got insurance, you've got, the ability to retire one day, you've got good training, you're working around other well-trained people. There's nothing else like it. And so it's something I'm really hoping to be able to expand in Gainesville.
And that's good for our youth as well, something that we can do to bring up people
Absolutely.
in the community who are young, who we want to keep in our community.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the problems we have. I'm sure you've heard like people talk about brain drain, where people come here, get a good education, and then leave because you can make more money elsewhere. Well, we have a similar problem in the trades. We bring people in, go through an apprenticeship, they'll get trained up. They can make twice as much money if they're willing to travel. So they'll also kind of hit the road. So making sure that as we're building this town up, people are making decent money. People have got the opportunity to live somewhere affordable. People can be here and enjoy this place and afford to be part of it. And I think that's important.
Yeah, it's an admirable goal.
Thanks.
And so what are your priorities now as you're sort of looking ahead to the rest of your three plus years? Mm-hmm. What do you want to see? What do you want to do?
So what I would really like to see, and we talked about it a little bit already, is making sure as development happens in Gainesville, and it's going to happen, right? This is Florida. Developers are coming here. The town's growing. That's going to happen. But making sure that those developers are kind of held accountable to not just what's the most profitable, but what's best for the city, whether that's through living wage policies, whether that's through making sure affordable housing is part of those developments, making sure that the communities that are coming into reap some of the rewards of that development.
That we're standing up for our communities and not allowing developers just to come in
Exactly.
and do whatever they choose.
And, again, you're in Florida. The state doesn't make it easy to tell developers no. But, making sure that we are using what tools we can to make that development equitable, to make that development beneficial for the communities and not just beneficial for the investors. I think that is going to be my overall goal. And that addresses a lot of other problems. I think so that, if you can make sure that the people working on that construction and eventually at that building have living wage jobs, have health care, have the ability to be able to send their kids to school and, or be able to afford childcare and those type of things. So I think it's kind of a wide-ranging approach, but making sure, again, that the money that gets spent here is to build the city up.
So one last question.
Sure.
Since you traveled, you've had this career that brought you to all these communities. What made you want to stay in Gainesville?
It's hard to say. Like, Gainesville's one of those places that, we've got this joke where you never quite escape. Like, there's a lot of people that are ready to leave town, and years later they come drifting back. There's just kind of cycle. And I think sometimes you don't appreciate what it is we've got here until you leave. I'll get frustrated with the traffic, and then I'll go somewhere that has real traffic. I'll get frustrated with the amount of conservation we're doing or any of these things. So I can see all the things we need to be doing better, and that can really frustrate you. But when you travel and you see what other places are doing, you compare, like, for the size town we are and for the resources we have, what we've been able to accomplish here, I think is pretty impressive. And that's a big draw. And it's you can tell, like, a lot of people want to live here. The town's growing, and I think keeping that balance and making sure that Gainesville stays the special place that it is an important goal in that. And that's kind of why I came back.
While fulfilling the potential that you see in it for the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
After the break, we'll speak with Gainesville Fire Rescue Chief Shawn Hillhouse. Hurricane season began June 1st, and Chief Hillhouse will share important preparedness tips. But first, this is Gun Violence Awareness Month, and the City of Gainesville is holding a series of community-centered events. They're organized as part of our Gun Violence Prevention Initiative, Impact GNV. In this video, the Gainesville City Commission, City Manager, and public safety leaders emphasize the importance of violence prevention and reaching out to those in need.
In Gainesville, we all have a role to play in preventing gun violence. Safety starts with each of us.
Never settle a conflict with violence. Talk it out, walk away, or ask for help before things escalate.
The City of Gainesville has declared gun violence a public health crisis and called on our colleagues at the Alachua County Commission to do the same. We've made progress, but there's so much more to do. Join the Gun Violence Prevention Alliance or the Youth Steering Committee by going to the city's website or call. Help us bring an end to gun violence.
If you own a firearm, always store it securely, locked and unloaded, and have conversations with your children about safe gun practices.
If you see people on social media threatening violence, don't just ignore it, report it, and right away.
Know how to respond in an emergency. If someone is hurt or is threatening to hurt someone else, call 911 and get to safety.
Create opportunities in your community to have conversations with your neighbors about gun violence and community-based solutions to address it.
If you know someone who may be thinking about harming themselves, stand up and speak out. Dial or text the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at 988. One small choice can save a life.
If you or someone you know is in a dangerous or violent relationship, help is available. Contact our team of dedicated victim advocates at the Gainesville Police Department for valuable information on how to keep you and your family safe from abuse.
Get involved in community programs. Sports, the arts, job training, and mentorship can lead to positive opportunities.
If you have experienced or been impacted by gun violence, know you are not alone.
Gainesville is a much safer place when we look out for each other, work together, and listen to those most impacted. Gun violence is preventable. Let's each do our part to end it.
Are you ready for some music? Get ready to rock, roll, and groove every Friday night all summer and fall at the Bo Diddley Plaza in historic downtown Gainesville. Catch the best local music under the stars. Bring your lawn chairs, blankets, and kids to the Free Fridays concert series. The fun starts at 7 Friday nights, and again, it's free. For a full schedule, visit GainesvilleFL.gov/Bo Diddley Plaza.
Gainesville Fire Rescue Chief Shawn Hillhouse has just been named to the top spot after serving as interim fire chief following the departure of Chief Joe Dixon last November. Chief Hillhouse first joined GFR in 2003 and has been with the department 22 years. He has a Bachelor of Science in Science, Fire, and Emergency Services, and a master's degree in Homeland Security. Chief Hillhouse, welcome to GNV On The Move.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I want to congratulate you first on your new role with GFR.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited about it. It's a lot of responsibility, but I have a lot of help. So looking forward to being able to move the department forward.
You've been there a long time. You've been part of building a really excellent team at GFR. There have been some interesting innovations over the past year or so. Particularly the shift change has been something that our recruitment has benefited from.
Yes, ma'am. So we moved from a 24-48. That's where firefighters normally work a 24-hour shift, and then they would have 2 days off. And like many fire departments across the country, we had some staffing issues. And one of the ways that we made the department more marketable was moving us to a 24-hour on, 72-hour off. So it gives firefighters a little bit more of a break in between shifts. So we still have a lot of people that are working overtime, but they get a little bit more of a break between that reset. And we're actually being studied by Florida State University to kind of showcase the health effects of that change. And we have seen a stabilization in our staffing since then.
That is great news. And as you assume this leadership role, do you have some priorities, some things that you have been hoping to be able to institute, try, change?
So you pointed out I've been with the department for 22 years and haven't really been waiting to make a lot of changes. I've been kind of working on those changes to build the culture of the department, kind of shape where we were going. But we are looking forward to do some organizational restructuring that we think will strengthen what we're trying to accomplish.
So a lot of things under the banner of GFR. You know, you're also working in outreach to our houseless community. You're working on Impact GNV, which is the gun violence prevention initiative. And of course, emergency preparedness, which is really what we want to talk about today because we're entering hurricane season. So tell me a little bit about what the department's role is in making sure Gainesville is prepared for a big storm.
So under our Community Risk Reduction Division, which is led by Chief David Sutton, we have emergency management. And GFR actually does emergency management for the entire city. And one of the things that we do is run the city's Emergency Operations Center. And we stand that up. City staff from all across the city comes in and we stand this up anytime we have a disaster, man-made or natural disaster, or anytime we have a very large event. And that allows us to monitor situations and also make sure that we're continuing essential services for the citizens.
And so you have recently run at the city's Emergency Operations Center an exercise to sort of warm up, I guess, and prepare for the oncoming season. Tell me a little bit about that.
So what we did was we brought in all the the different city departments to stand up that City Emergency Operations Center, and we did an exercise with the operations group, and that's the group that really monitors what's going on and executes the plan. And then we brought in the planning group, which is designed to specifically look at what information we need to be able to make decisions and actually write the incident action plan. And then we brought in our finance, which has to be able to figure out how we're going to pay for it all.
And so you're working with partner agencies as well. This is really a collaborative effort. If a big storm comes, everybody in Alachua County is pulling together to figure out how to respond and recover.
Yes, ma'am. So while we work at the City Emergency Operations Center, we actually have Alachua County that works at the County EOC, the County Emergency Operations Center. And the county's responsible for emergency management for the entire county. And then the city, we stand up with what's called an area command. So we take charge of the City of Gainesville, and we have the majority of the resources in the county that we can send out to assist. And then if we're overwhelmed, we contact the county for state resources to be able to come in and help us. So it is a collaborative effort, a give and take to make sure that everybody stays safe in our area.
As we approach the start of the season, or as this is airing, I guess we will be in the season in the early days. I know that the predictions are for pretty active storm season. Lots of stuff could be coming our way. So what are, fingers crossed that doesn't happen, but what are your words for people as they think about what needs to be done in their households to prepare for hurricanes?
So the past couple of years, it's been predicted that we're going to have the busiest storm season, and this year's, no different. So we're expecting a very busy storm season. I think sometimes Floridians are kind of accused of being flippant about hurricanes, and hopefully that's because it's high risk, but it's also high frequency. So we get to prepare for it often, and hopefully everybody is prepared. So I would say, for households, that's what we want. We want everybody, number one, to make sure that they have a plan, that they've built out their kits so that they can sustain their families for a week in case of a catastrophic event, and that they stay informed about what's going on. And I would ask that, if we request that an area be evacuated, please evacuate the area. And if we ask that everybody shelter in place, that everybody shelters in place and stays inside. If not, it causes puts our responders in a lot of danger, being able to assist people that didn't comply.
So I think you touched on the thing that I see as a hazard, which is the complacency, the familiarity of these alerts, where people begin to feel, we always are told to do these things, and the big storm has never really come. So you worry then that when the big storm does come, people may have this false sense of security.
Yes, ma'am. I think you practice like you play. So, if on the smaller storms, or, people have gotten away with it because we didn't get hit, they'll think that that's going to continue. But we actually go and help a lot of people even during our smaller storms in the City of Gainesville. We have trees that fall on houses where we have to go and rescue people. And we have a lot of instances of where people encountered water, didn't turn around, tried to make it through, that our responders have to go out and get them. So it's really important that if we ask for an area to be evacuated, or we ask that everybody shelter in place, please stay inside and in place unless you just absolutely have to leave.
And Hurricane Helene was a pretty large event for this area last summer, and a lot of trees down. I suppose that's the type of scenario that people need to be prepared for, somewhere on the scale of minor to major. What, again, would you recommend people have in either their go bags or in their homes, so that if that happens again, they can sustain for a day, 2, 3, until everything is restored back to livability?
So the big things, we're going to need medication, food, and water for at least 1 week. You're going to need something to be able to see if the power is out, so flashlights with batteries, and ideally you need a way to stay informed, whether that's a weather radio, or you just have something to charge your cell phone so that you can stay informed with what's going on.
And our communications office has worked with GFR to come up with the brochure. This is one that's really nice, and this year it's also available in Spanish, and it really lays out some of the things that you want everyone to know about hurricane preparedness. And I understand that we have them for pickup at Clarence R. Kelly Community Center, UF Health Urgent Care Center East Side, the Florida Department of Health in Alachua County, and also, of course, at City Hall, and it'll be at a number of other city facilities. So having something like this on hand, do you think that is helpful for people, just as a reference?
Definitely, and it gives you a lot of good resources. So you can sign up for Alert GNV, so whenever we have weather events that are occurring in the area or any sort of man-made disaster, that you'll get an alert on your telephone. And it sends you to some state websites that will walk you through the process of preparing a plan for your family, both for evacuation routes, for communication plans, and how to build that go bag that you talked about so that you're ready in the event that you have to shelter in place or leave.
Thank you very much for being here, and congratulations again.
Thank you very much.
We hope you've enjoyed this glimpse of the many exciting projects going on in Gainesville. We leave you now with Meet Your Community Builders. Karen Pruss is one of those community builders and serves as the coordinator for the city's historic Evergreen Cemetery. Established as a private cemetery in 1856, the city assumed ownership in 1944, and it serves as the only municipal cemetery in Gainesville. Join us again next month as we take another look at GNV On The Move.
Hi, my name is Karen Pruss. For the past 7 years, I've served as the coordinator for Evergreen Cemetery. In my role as cemetery coordinator, I assist families in funeral homes with burial scheduling and selecting a grave space. I support clients in updating their records and locating the grave sites of a loved one. And I also oversee the maintenance and upkeep of the cemetery property. My role directly impacts neighbors and visitors in meaningful ways. The cemetery is 169 years old, and by digitizing the cemetery records and creating a digital mapping app, I've made our historical archives more accessible to everybody. It allows families to easily locate their loved ones and researchers to explore the past. I also coordinate special events that bring the community together in this historic space, creating opportunities for both education and remembrance. These gatherings help transform the cemetery from a simple place of mourning into a living cultural landmark. I share my life with my husband, William. We've been married 41 years. When I'm not at Evergreen, you might find me with a paintbrush in hand, out metal detecting, or camping in our mid-century modern camper that we lovingly restored ourselves. In my job, I'm fascinated to learn Gainesville's history through the stories of those who are buried here. Through my work, I've become not just a caretaker of this wondrous place, but a keeper of the shared history that I get to share with others. But mostly I love that I have the opportunity to make somebody's worst time a little easier.